Welcome to this quick tutorial on how to use Adobe Audition to create a quick beatbox using the internal microphone of the Mac computer. So this is the session that I've created, and this is what we're going to be shooting for. So it's a basic kind of dance beat at 120 beats per minute. I'm going to quit Audition and start completely from scratch. So if we go to Audition, if you can't find it, it will be in your Finder under Applications, Adobe Audition, down arrow, and this is the file that you're going to open. So Audition opens up in this multi-track view. There's two different views. Multi-track will give you multiple tracks to be able to record audio on and then mix them all together. Waveform is a single track view, either left and right stereo or mono. So I want you guys to work in the multi-track view. Adobe is pretty awesome with showing you where your files are going, unlike how Final Cut Pro X kind of hides them in the background. But you really do need to set it up. So if you don't set it up correctly in this first step, you're going to be misplacing files. So you want to set the location first before you go worrying about the name. We're going to browse. I'm going to make sure I'm on an external C drive. And I have a first name, last name folder within that C drive already set up. And I'm going to create a new folder and date it. And tack your last name and something descriptive. So last name Beatbox. Okay, so there's my folder, and I will choose that folder. So now all the files that I create for this project will go to that folder. And I also want to name the session file. So I'm also going to name it 3:17:15 Piston Beatbox. So now I have a multi-track session file, a .sesx. And I'm going to show you in the Finder what that looks like. So the C drive, my folder. In my folder I have this Beatbox folder. There's a subfolder within that folder, and in there is going to be this .sesx file. So that file is the controller file. It saves what you've arranged in space, but it's not audio. The audio files need to be recorded or imported, and then the .sesx file references those audio files. So there's two separate files, the controller file, this SESX file, and then the audio file. All right, so let's do some quick recording. So we're going to use track 1 to be our bass drum. Track 2 is going to be our clap, and track 3 is going to be our hi-hat. And we're going to be using the mic that's right above where this mouse is pointing. There's a little dot, that's your video camera, and above that, if you see the little windscreen, there's like some perforations in the top of the iMac. That's the microphone. So if you rub your finger on it, it will scritchy scratch back and forth. We're going to be using our mouth to create some of these sounds. So the bass drum sound, if you record arm for that track, now you're seeing that we have some input coming in. You can see the level metering. If I scritchy scratch on top, you see it clips. We're not hearing it unless you have this I selected. If you don't have your headphones plugged in, like I currently do, you'll get a major feedback. So I recommend just leaving that off if all you're doing is recording. You're not going to need to hear it back yet. The default stereo input is going to be built-in microphone 1, so that's the mic at the top there, and we're already seeing that we have it. And then it's going to output to the master, which is going out through your headphones. So we don't really have to do any further configuring here. We'll talk about configuring later when we need to record with other devices and not the internal mic on the Mac. So I'm going to quickly run through this. On the bass drum track, we've got it record armed. To start the recording process, you can click on this little recorder. It's telling you shift and the space bar will start the recording process. So I'll click for the first one, and I'm going to try to do some bass drum sounds vocally. And spacebar will stop. So now I've recorded this bass drum sound. Let's see what I got. Okay, and then I'll put the time bar later. You could record right over top of it if you wanted to, but for this tutorial, I'll just put the time bar there. And this time I'm going to shift spacebar, and I'm going to record some claps. Oh, actually, I made a mistake. So it's recording in the bass drum track. I'm going to Command Z, undo, and I want to unrecord arm the bass drum track and record arm the clap track. and I think I just changed the track height. If you scroll up and down, that'll change your track heights. So if you hover over this area here and use the mouse wheel to scroll, so I'll make the track heights a little smaller. Alright, so we have our bass drum track, and now I have my clap track, and I'm going to shift spacebar, clap. So notice it's starting to clip a little bit. I wanted to get far enough away and like not clap so loud that it clips. If you see it truncating, I'm going to zoom in, Command plus, or just plus, zooms all the way in, or hold plus. You see how this flat lines at the top of the track there, and it doesn't have like the ability to kind of stop and then come back down to the middle red line? That means it's clipping, so it's going to be distorted. So if we listen to this clap here, it was loud and possibly distorting. So I'm going to zoom all the way out and listen to one that's a little quieter. That's a little cleaner. So notice it's not really that bad actually, so I might end up using one of those. Okay, anyway, we're going to move on to the hi-hat. I'm going to unrecord arm this track, I'm going to record arm this track, and I'm going to shift spacebar to record, and I'm going to make some hi-hat sounds with my S's. Spacebar stops, and then that was like a short kind of like hi-hat-like sound if you were to hit a closed set of cymbals with your stick if you were a drummer. So I'm going to start to trim these now. If you hover over the edge of the track, notice the bracket comes up, and that's the trim. That's using the kind of multi-move tool. So I'm going to trim this out. I could B, or it's R for razor tool. So if I hit the R key, I could click right where my time bar is and make a cut in the track if the razor is up there. So I've just made a cut in the track, and then I'm going to V for our move tool, and now I have that hi-hat kind of separated, and then I can select the rest of the track. Let me just listen to this. That looks right. If I wanted to be very critical and precise, I can hold the plus key and zoom all the way in and make sure I trim this to the very front of that, where the waveform starts, and I'm going to zoom all the way back out. To zoom all the way back out, you can use the forward or backslash key. It's right above your return key. It's in between the return and the delete key on the keyboard. That'll give you a global zoom, kind of like Shift Z if you're in Final Cut Pro. So I global zoomed out, and I have my hi-hat. I'm going to delete the rest of this stuff. It's a big delete key. And then I'm going to look for a good clap. I actually like this really loud clap, so I'm going to trim that and trim to the back of that and plus in and make sure I'm fully right on the very front edge of this clap. And keep going in. It's zooming wherever my time bar is, so I want to make sure my time bar is where it needs to be. And right there looks like perfect, and then I will just fully zoom out. And then I need to find a good bass drum sound. I like this one here, so we're going to trim this down and zoom plus in, put my time bar here, zoom to where the time bar is, and I'm going to trim. You got to pay attention to your tooltip because it kind of changes, so make sure it's this red bracket. And then we go right to the front edge of that, and now I have my kick drum. So if I fully zoom out, this currently is set how I had it last set. You have to control click on this time bar to change it from, I think it was set to SMPT time code, probably maybe 2997, something like that. I'm not exactly sure what it's set to, but we do want to go down and control click and make sure that we set it to bars and beats. This way you can see the bars and beats of a song, and we're going to use that with the snapping so that we have it fully snapped out to a good sounding rhythm. So we're going to start with the bass drum, and I'm going to put the bass drum on every 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is the bar and this is the beat. So in bar 1, I'm going to put it on beats 1, 2, 3, and 4. So first I'm going to put it on 1, and then I have to copy it, Command C, and then put my time bar on the 2, and Command V paste. And then I'm going to make sure that this is snapped on that 2 perfectly. And I can highlight by clicking outside and dragging. I'm going to Command C copy both of those. And I'm going to put my time bar somewhere near 3, Command V paste in, and now I have both of those pasting in. And I'm going to snap it to 3. I'm going to click and highlight all those, Command C, copy, put my time bar somewhere near the 1, Command V, paste, and I'm going to click and drag all those so that it's snapping on the 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now we have 8 kind of bass drum sounds on the beats. Okay, and then the next thing is I'm going to make a, I can unrecord arm this track and make the claps kind of sit where they need to sit. So I'm going to zoom out, grab my clap, zoom in a little bit so I can grab it. Paying attention to the tooltip, we want to make sure that we are, up scrolling works too. If you're hovering over the time bar, up scrolling with the mouse scrolls in and out. That's a very fast way to do it. So I want to make sure I grab the correct part of the track, and I'm going to lay this on the 2s and the 4s. So I'm going to copy this and paste in and put it on the 2 and 4, and I'm going to copy this and paste in and make sure I'm on 2 and 4 here as well. So now if we listen back, okay, so we're clipping a little bit here. If I want to turn that down, I can drag this to the left, and home jumps to the top. Okay, and then my hi-hat, if I zoom out, grab my hi-hat, throw it up on the top of the timeline, zoom in, and I'm going to move this, zooming out to the in-between notes, and I'm going to copy it and paste it to my in-between notes to make sure that this is right. The blue bar showing you that I'm on the in-between note, and I'm going to copy both these and paste these, and again moving it to the in-between note. Zoom out, minus, highlight all these, copy it and paste it, and move that to my in-between note. I think that looks right. Home. So that's the gist of creating a beatbox. So now I'm going to save my session file, Command S. Session files, remember, aren't audio. That saves how we've arranged the audio in time. So we recorded some stuff, cut some stuff, copied and pasted stuff in time. So now we have kind of copies of the same sound over and over again, and the session file remembers where they're placed and their file path, where they're stored on the hard drive. So they're kind of recorded in these numbers, and if you look in your Finder, you can see that here's all the WAV files that were recorded. So that's this. PKF files is the view of the waveform, so it's kind of like the squiggly line that you see on the screen. It just kind of saves it so that it can be referenced faster and doesn't tie up system resources. So then the last thing you would need to do is export the song that you've created. So if I click in here and I do a file, it's going to be export, and we're going to do the multi-track mixdown entire session. So the multi-track mixdown, we're going to pick our location and just make sure it's in the right spot. I'm going to go into the correct folder. This is my first attempt at doing this tutorial. Here's the 17th, and then it's called the date, my name, Beatbox Mixdown. Looks good. I'm going to save it, and the format, make sure you choose AIFF. That's uncompressed Mac version audio, and we're going to say OK, and it's doing the mixdown. And then if I go into my Finder, now I'm going to see that my mixdown file is here, and this is the file that you would upload to your SoundCloud account when we create it. So I'm going to hit the space bar. So it's 2 bars of a little 120 beat per minute basic electro beat with beatboxing using the system internal mic. And that's going to do it for this tutorial.